All right, time for this week's dad joke. Hope you all enjoy it. So, Frog goes into the local bank and walks up to the receptionist. She says, "Can I help you?" And the frog says, "Yeah, I have an appointment 11 a.m. with loan specialist." And the receptionist says, "Oh, give me a minute." And she looks it up and she says, "Oh, yeah." She says, "Yeah, you're scheduled for 11 a.m. with Mrs. Patty Whack, our loan specialist." Frog says, "Great." She takes a seat. She goes, "She'll be with you in just a minute." So, about 5 minutes later, Mrs. Whack comes on and she says to the frog, she says, "Mr. Frog?" And he says, "Yeah." She says, "Well, I'm Mrs. Patty Whack. Come into my office." And so he sits down and she says, "What can I do for you today?" He says, "Well, my wife and I, we just had a few little ones and we're looking to upgrade to a larger pad." That's not the punchline. Stop laughing. And so we're looking to buy a new home. And she says, "Well, okay, how much money are you looking to borrow?" He says, "Well, we need to borrow $50,000 and we have enough equity in our other home that should be able to cover it." She says, "Oh, great." She goes, "Well, what would you like to put down for collateral?" And the frog reaches down and he holds up this vase here. He says, "Well, I have this antique here. It's been in the family for generations." He goes, "I think that should cover it." And the loan officer looks at him. She says, "Well, I'm going to have to talk to the old man about that and get approval." And the frog says, "The old man?" And she says, "Oh," she says, "excuse me." She says, "Yeah, Mr. James. He's the president of the bank." He goes, we call him the old man, but I'll have to talk to Mr. James because that's a little different collateral than what we're used to. And we'll get back to you." He says, "Okay." So Patty Whack walks into the president's office and says, "Mr. James, got a question for you." And he says, "Yeah, what's that?" He says, "Well, I got this frog wants a home loan, and for collateral, all he has is this vase here." And the president of the bank says, "Well, I'll tell you what." He goes, "I got to play at 2 o'clock." She goes, "Play at 2 o'clock?" He goes, "Yeah, I got to play Mr. Shoe at 2 o'clock. We got a golf appointment." She goes, "Mr. Shoe?" He goes, "Yeah, he's my buddy. He owns the antique store downtown. I'll take some pictures of the vase, run it by him, see what it's worth, and see if they'll cover the loan. Tell the frog we'll let him know tomorrow." So Mrs. Whack tells the frog, "Hey, you got to come back tomorrow. We'll have an answer for you." So Frog says, "Okay, I'll be back at 10 o'clock in the morning." So sure enough, Frog comes in 10 o'clock, and Mrs. Whack meets him and says, "Well, I'll go talk to the president and see what he said." So Mrs. Whack walks into the president's office and says, "Excuse me." She says, "Oh, yeah, Patty, good to see you, good to see you." He goes, "Yeah, I got an answer for you." She goes, "You do?" He says, "Yeah," and he grabs the vase and he holds it up and he says, "That's a nice knick-knack, Patty Whack. Give the frog a loan. This old man says approved. Let him buy that home."